Currently, Zivu is the big bad now. I want us to watch this video. Can we go watch a video real quick? Bife put out a video the other day. And by the way, this week, we're going to be doing a raid with Bife. It'll be like a raid along. This is going to be the big bad. This is Bife's video. Again, everybody go over to Bife's YouTube channel. Please drop some love, some likes, some comments. Please, please, please. Let's just watch this real quick. Right here, this video, the Winnower just sent a message to us. This is what it said.
So here's a little line from the latest Bungie update, which was patch notes. Apparently the Nokre ship, at least I think it's pronounced Nokre, and I'm going to say Nokre for the rest of this video, was missing its lore tab, and, well, it's been added back in. And I guess that's pretty neat for Bungie to add that in with the expansion, and I wonder why. It's the Winnower. It's the Winnower. Bungie waited for all this time for us to clear the raid and GM Excision, and for everything else to go on, and for everyone to have their little self-contained Winnower freakouts to just drop another lore tab, and it's just the Winnower sending us a message, specifically to us. So needless to say, I'm mildly freaking out just a little bit. Not only that, but it's doing the thing in the update where the villain takes over Bungie.net and momentarily takes over the update text. So, yeah, that's the kind of villain we're dealing with. That's, I think only Savathun has done that before.
Right.
Maybe The Witness and a few other bits, I'm not sure. With all that in mind, let's talk about the Winnower, what it said to us, and what it means for the future. So, let's sit down and actually read this message from the Winnower first. Nokre. Even the most perfect of pearls has grit at its center. Let's chat, shall we? One more nice sit down for the books. Did you think you wouldn't hear from me again? After all this? You'd have missed me, I hope. And I would certainly have missed you. Have no fear. I'm not so easy to be rid of. Now, let me show you my beloved. Oh, no, not my sedimentary necrolite fossilized in time. You've seen that. I speak of that dear and distant expanse of the universe, miraculous in its fullness and its emptiness all at once. Are you surprised to hear of it? Yes, I never much cared for the change of rules, but here we are, and there's no use in crying over spilled radiolaria. Besides, at the heart of it all, there was a gift. To me. That gift is the chance to speak with you. You and a billion like you. I am making this offer over and over again in every tiniest cell and the vastest of civilizations. Let me in. Take what you need. Be at ease. You have no say in the degradation of your telomeres, but in all the interim, the whole world is your sweet silicate shellfish. You exist because you have been more suited to it than all the others. Steal what you require from another rather than spend the hours to build it yourself. Break foolish rules. Why would you love regulation? It serves you to cross lines, and if others needed rules to protect them, then they were not after all worthy of that existence. Caricatures of villainy are out of style, I hear. Yes, I am no cackling mastermind. I am serious when I say this. It was not the trick of standing upright that lifted you from the dust. It was the mastery of fire, the cooking of cold corpse meat. That is not any unique faction's province, neither good nor evil. It is simply truth. Great beloved cosmos, always decaying, always finding that same old lovely pattern. Despite every candle flame burning amid the flowers, a billion electrons taking the path of least resistance. In darkness or in light, someone is always making my choice. Be seeing you. So, first of all, how the hell do we know that this is the Winnower? Well, if you've read Unveiling, you doubtless recognize the actual tempo of the reading and the way the character conveys itself. But here are some really quick additional context things. When distinguishing the Winnower from the witness, we always look at pronoun usage. The Winnower uses I and the witness uses we. This passage is another one using I, so this is definitely not the witness. Not that it'd make sense given the context of what's being said anyway.
Yeah.
It has that same incredibly casual pattern of speech, something that has a familiarity or even a jovial tone at times. The same pattern of speech that you can see in both Unveiling and the communications made to Oryx by whatever he called the Deep within the Books of Sorrow. That's verse 4.2 or 4.3, for those who are interested. The text references what was said in the Books of Unveiling almost perfectly as well. It references the pattern that the Winnower saw constantly repeating in the universe over and over again. It references everything that the Winnower has been on about this whole time. So, barring something so convoluted that it doesn't make sense at this moment in time, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the Winnower. And what a great bit of dialogue this really is. So, let's first actually talk a little bit about the meaning of a few bits and pieces in this lore reading so you can all understand this just a little bit better. And that starts firstly with the actual name of the ship and the flavor text. This is all linked up with some notions found in Entelechy, I believe, the Final Shape Collector's Edition lore book that came with the physical Collector's Edition. So we'll go there and talk about that for just a second first. There's a moment displayed in that lore book where one precursor is speaking to another, who has since left their civilization and gone into exile. It's on the cusp of them all becoming the witness. In the message sent out, the precursor who is about to become a part of the witness states that they have doubts and that they're sure that those doubts will be the grit subsumed by the pearl of certainty that is the witness. For those of you who don't know, this is the process of actually making a pearl. Grit within the center of an oyster is covered in a secretion of a pair of compounds that is rather shiny in texture, and eventually it will become a pearl. Those two compounds are calcium carbonate and argonite, and what do you know, together that substance which makes a pearl from grit, it's called nacre. It is the outer coating on the grit that you recognize a pearl for. But strangely enough, all this has nothing to do with the Winnower. That's more to do with the witness and the precursors. And yet,
I don't mean to interrupt because Bife is dropping some crazy knowledge. But if that is in fact the Winnower, they have such a casual way of speaking to us, almost human-like. It's not what I would expect. I would expect kind of more or less of what the witness was like, you know? It's strange. It kind of throws me off a little bit. Because you think of the Winnower, this being that's supposed to cut down life, essentially. As Bife said, he's quite jovial in a way. Not only that, he doesn't sound upset. He almost sounds like everything, it just works to his favor. Like in some weird way, have we become a knife? Are we in some unintentional way, have we become one of the knives of the Winnower? The witness being the first blade. Winnower is a big sword logic dude. Well, that would make sense. That would make sense given, the doctrine of the hive and that he communicated with Oryx and in some ways gave Oryx the power to take.
I think the two are interlinked. I don't think the name nacre and the flavor text is just referring to the witness and the precursors and Entelechy. I also think that this is a bit of a perspective check from the Winnower. I might actually be jumping the gun here, but I think this is referential to the witness mocking the outward perfection that the witness supposedly portrayed, and yet that outward perfection is marred by an inward flaw, the grit that the pearl has covered up. All of this is wrapped up in the ship's name and flavor text, and that is a lot of interjection and speculation, but I think it's an interpretation that makes sense at very least, and links the two together. The body of the text, though, is where things get really interesting. The first sentences are something akin to a friend reintroducing themselves, and if we're to believe that this is the perspective of the Winnower, then this is potentially a sincerely held belief. It knows that we have been carrying out its idea of brutality in exchange for survival for a very, very long time.
Literally doing its bidding.
As it has said before in the Unveiling lore, it treasures that about us. It also assures us that it isn't so easy to be rid of, which Yeah, I kind of hope so, for the sake of it being a good villain, but also for the sake of the narrative of Destiny, if it is the kind of cosmic entity that we believe it to be. Next, and perhaps most confusingly, the witness references what it is referring to as its beloved, the universe, before clarifying that its beloved is not the sedimentary necrolite fossilized in time. Before we get onto the Winnower's actual beloved, let's talk about...
Oh my God. So from this sentence right here, this is telling me that we just did the Winnower's bidding by destroying the witness, and that in some ways, the witness, although on the surface directly it appeared that it was turning its blade against the traveler, what it was really doing was turning its blade on the Winnower itself. The Winnower doesn't choose with a knife carves. No, but it wants the game to keep going, and the witness was going to stop the game.
About what the hell all of that means. And I'll be honest, I don't really have an idea of what's being referenced here in concrete terms, but I'm gonna try. I initially thought that necrolites were meant to be a form of plant of some kind, but looking into it further, I just had no idea what it was, and I even went down the path of wondering if this was an invented word, some combination of acolyte and necrotic. I thought that that might be referential to the Witness and Oryx, the two beings that the Winnower had a direct hand in creating in some way, or at least in influencing in the case of Oryx, and, well, I still really wasn't convinced on that one, and I'm glad that I did a bit more research because I think I found something that makes just a little bit more sense. Because it could be something that's just to do with dirt and earth straight up. If you look up necrolite online, literally only one source even mentions the word, and that's Wikipedia. Yes, we are really scraping the bottom of the barrel for research purposes here, without going to something like JSTOR, and I don't have those academic resources at my disposal so easily. It takes you to the word necronite, which is apparently an offshoot of necrolite.
497, 498.
And necronite is a foul-smelling kind of feldspar. What is feldspar? Feldspar is a kind of rock that's predominantly made up of silicates and makes up the majority of Earth's crust. The deep lore link here is potentially to the Vex, because they are silicon-based life forms. And, well, that means that if you're looking for radiolaria, then maybe you're looking for feldspar and the silicates that can be found within. That being said, I really don't know on this one. It's days like this that make me wonder if I should get a subscription to the Encyclopedia Britannica or not, but regardless, we press on. If this is about the Vex, then calling them sedimentary necrolite frozen in time makes a certain degree of sense, and it might refer to them as being the Vex of the Black Garden. Then again, the sedimentary bit might be referring to Earth literally, as opposed to saying something along the lines of them being base. If that's the case, then maybe it's talking about the Black Garden, something which the Winnower and us will have seen if we're to believe that that is the garden from before time. But again, that's not totally clear. Then again, nothing about this is clear. I hate to say it, I don't have that many answers. This could be referring to the Black Garden itself for another reason though. It's a structure, it's a place, and it makes me think about the wording that the Winnower uses here. You've seen that in reference to the necrolite that it's talking about. This implies that what we're looking at previously is an object as opposed to a person or a group. Either way, I'm having equal amounts of trouble piercing this one, and it doesn't completely matter because the Winnower is going on and telling us about how it's learned to love something else, the universe at large. It goes on to clarify that this is because of the fact that even though it disagreed with the initial creation of the universe, and that it might cause more suffering, it is now very content with the way in which the universe operates, and it sees the pattern that it beheld in the Flower Game all over the universe. For those that don't remember, the Flower Game was the game played by the Gardener and the Winnower before time, and its repetitive results were the reason why the Gardener wanted an extra rule. This extra rule created the universe, compounded the Gardener and Winnower as concepts embodying those rules, and caused the destruction of the Flower Game, the tearing down of the Tree of Silver Wings in the Garden before time, and the escape of the Vex. So,
I'm like in Elden Tree mode. I mean, Elden Ring mode. And like, I see this right here and it like makes me think of the Elden Tree almost as, you know what I'm saying? Like it almost as if like the Elden Ring, the Elden Tree had been chopped down instead of burnt down, right? It's crazy. I really hope Bungie, like there needs to be more emphasis on this. Like I want to see what the flower game is really like.
yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Regardless, the Winnower now sees the pattern that it beheld within the flower game all over the universe. It is that rule, that one must be strong and must take to survive. In this lore entry, the Winnower is quite simply imploring us to continue making the same choices that we have before. It wants us to keep taking. It makes a reference to something called a telomere, which basically is to do with DNA. The shorter your telomeres are, the more that you will age. So, yeah, it's effectively saying that one day it knows that we will die, but it states that in the meantime, in the interim, the world is our sweet silicate shellfish? Yeah, that's just a transplanting of the phrase, the world is our oyster. So, it's saying, yeah, I know you'll die, but in the meantime, do as you will. The world is your oyster. Take advantage of it. It tells us to break rules that don't suit us. It tells us to steal from those that have what we require. It tells us to cross lines if those lines are not serving us, and to disregard those that the lines were there to protect. The Winnower in these last few moments is really celebrating. Even with all the suffering that is occurring, someone out there is always choosing its way to exist.
Yeah.
And that, apparently, is enough to make any suffering from the gardener's choice well worth it. Once again, near the end of its message, it communicates the idea that what it believes in isn't good or evil, but instead is truth. It even goes as far as to say that it isn't a villain and isn't trying to be some caricature of villainy or some terrible mastermind. According to the Winnower, it cannot be these things because it is simply a fundamental truth of the universe, a rule that was written in since the flower game ended. And then, of course, it says, "Be seeing you," to end the message. I think that you can look at this as an active or a passive statement. I think the Winnower is always seeing us. If it is the rule of the universe that takes precedent whenever we might prove our might, it is always watching us whenever we crush a thrall under our boot, or shred a Vex with bullets, or shatter the ghost of a lucent hive. It is always there as a rule of the universe, and so in this sense, it's not at all impossible for it to be seeing us. But there's also the active interpretation of things. If we are going to head out into the universe in whatever happens in Frontiers, and to explore so many things lost and left time, I think we might genuinely be seeing the Winnower soon. I don't know if Bungie is setting up the Winnower to be the big bad of the next Destiny franchise, but if they are, then this might be the note calling us forward and letting us know that the world is about to experience a radical change very soon. A change that starts with its arrival into the story proper. Mara and Ikora spoke once about the potential for even greater challenges than the Witness to be on the horizon. It's possible that the Winnower is such a challenge. There is one last thing I do also want to talk about before we all go forward from this though, and it's this, the line where the Winnower states that there is no point crying over spilled radiolaria. This is in regards to the choice the Gardener made to add that new rule to the flower game, and the aftermath of that choice, where the fight broke out between the Gardener and the Winnower, and where in this moment supposedly primal patterns, rumoured to be the Vex, escaped from the flower game into the universe proper. This has to be one of the best explanations for the origins of the Vex in the lore. That being said, they also appear in a different place in the lore, and that's within the Entelechy lore book, where the precursors mention having access to glass minds, which are capable of eerily accurate predictions of the future, and seems somewhat similar in nature to the Vex. Remember that these predictions went forward through time and looked through all of space, and, well, they're glass minds. Vault of Glass, anybody? That might be a red herring, but ultimately, it could lend a little context to us if we're going to try and piece together a timeline of everything that happened in Destiny's ancient history and Age of Origins. But for now, that is it. Whether it will always be watching as an omniscient truth of the universe, or whether it will soon stand in our presence as it did with Oryx, the Winnower is out there. Still waiting. Still watching. But that's all from me for now. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like. And of course, also remember to leave your own thoughts down below in the comments section. I have no idea what to even ask you all for this one. This kind of came out of left field on a time when I was taking a few days off, just so I could rest and recover a little bit. But, I mean, well, it's definitely one of the largest lore bombs of the expansion, alongside the line from the Witness itself in the raid, stating that it is not the Winnower. From all of this, though, I'm sure there are 10,000 questions, or 10,000 different thoughts you may all have, so leave them down below. And if you have any more content that you want, let me know about that too, and subscribe so you can see it. You can also hit the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Parodasia Arastra. I'll see you, Starside.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I don't know. Like, the Winnower doesn't really have to do much of anything. It is interesting you mentioned radial area. I don't really know how the Vex tie into all this. Also feel like we go into this with the perspective that the Winnower and the Gardener were in fact the only creators of the universe. And again, it's the extra rule that created the universe. But who's to say there weren't other players? Who's to say it wasn't just the Gardener and Winnower? I guess the flower game, the one thing we have on the flower game. And this still doesn't answer the question. Who is the 9 serving? Who are the 9? What are the 9? Why are they the 9? Is it 9 people? Do they have 9 fingers? What does it mean? Is it literally Star Horse? The 9 kind of, I just want to know how I'm most intrigued about how the 9 is tied into this. Video on the 9 does exist. I know it exists, bud, but it doesn't exist. Like none of them really. I don't think you walk out. Go watch lore on the 9 and tell me how confident you feel coming out of it, knowing who the 9 are and what their motives are. I think the only thing that I have on the 9 is they wanted the Ahamkara dead, and that's at least something. We at least are able to pull from that. Okay, the motivation they had a motivation.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.